Orphan boy finds an old car in the middle of the woods. What he saw inside changed everything. Nathan Cooper walked alone along the trail he had known since he was little, escaping once again from the chores in the house where he had lived for 7 years. The 12-year-old boy had the habit of taking refuge in the dense woods surrounding the small district of Clear Springs, in the interior of West Virginia, whenever the feeling of not belonging to that place became unbearable. It was then that he spotted something unusual among the trees that made his heart race. Half hidden by vines and covered by a thick layer of green moss was an old car that seemed to have been abandoned many years ago. Nathan approached carefully, observing how nature had practically swallowed the vehicle. The boy's small, curious hands forced the driver's door, which gave way with a dry creak. The interior smelled of mold and damp earth, but something caught his attention in the slightly open glove compartment. With his heart pounding, he pulled out a rusty metal box that was hidden inside. When he opened the box, Nathan's world collapsed and rebuilt itself in a matter of seconds. There were old photographs, some already yellowed with time, showing a baby in the arms of a young, smiling couple. The baby was him, he was sure. He recognized his own dark eyes and the same curly hair he had now. His hands trembled as he flipped through the photos, finding several images of the same baby at different moments. In a crib, being fed, taking his first steps. In the last photo, the couple appeared in front of a simple house, holding a child of about 1 year old. Along with the photographs were documents with names he had never heard: James Cooper and Jennifer Cooper. The documents indicated they were his biological parents, contradicting everything that Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold, his adoptive parents, had told him about his origin. Nathan had always known he was adopted, but he was told his biological parents had died in an accident when he was a baby. Now, with those papers in his hands, a different truth began to take shape. There were birth certificates, an old ID card, and an address scribbled on a piece of paper: St. Catherine Ranch, Dry Creek Road, Calumet 15. The boy hid the box under his shirt and ran back home, his mind buzzing with questions. How did those documents end up in that abandoned car? Why did his adoptive parents lie about what happened to his biological parents? And more importantly, could James and Jennifer still be alive? He arrived home breathless and found Mrs. Margaret preparing lunch in the small, cramped kitchen where they lived. The 50-year-old woman, with graying hair tied in a loose bun, looked at him suspiciously. "Where were you, boy? I looked everywhere. Mr. Harold is angry because you didn't help fix the fence this morning." "Sorry, Mrs. Margaret, I lost track of time walking around. Go wash those hands and come eat, and stop disappearing like that without telling us. We worry." Nathan obeyed silently, but his mind was far away. During lunch, he watched the faces of Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold closely, looking for signs that they knew more than they had told. The 60-year-old man, his face weathered by the sun and his hands calloused from farm work, seemed worried about something. "Margaret, we need to talk about that matter later," said Mr. Harold, giving his wife a meaningful look. "What matter?" asked Nathan, curious. "Adult stuff, boy. You don't need to worry," Mrs. Margaret replied quickly. That evasive answer only increased Nathan's suspicion. He finished eating in silence and asked to be excused, saying he was going to rest in his room. "Actually, I wanted to examine the documents I had found more closely." In his small room, which shared space with an old dresser and a makeshift bookshelf, Nathan carefully spread the photographs out on the bed. There was one in particular that intrigued him. In it, the couple was standing in front of the same car he had found in the woods, but at the time of the photo, the vehicle was clean and running. This meant his biological parents had been in that region. Maybe they even lived there when he was a baby. The discovery made him even more determined to find the truth. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like, and especially to subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing, that afternoon, while Mrs. Margaret dozed in the hammock and Mr. Harold worked in the vegetable garden, Nathan decided to investigate the address he had found. He took the old bicycle he used to go to school and discreetly left, following the dirt road that led to Dry Creek. The 15-kilometer journey took almost an hour, with Nathan pedaling under the strong early afternoon sun. The rural landscape stretched out around him, with green pastures dotted with cattle and small farm properties. When he finally reached the location indicated on the paper, he found a modest ranch with a house of exposed brick and a yard where some chickens pecked freely. An elderly lady was watering plants on the porch. Her white hair was tied up in a colorful scarf, and she wore a simple cotton dress. When she saw Nathan approaching, she stopped what she was doing and watched him carefully. "Good afternoon, ma'am," said the boy, getting off his bicycle. "Do you know these people?" He showed one of the photographs. The woman took the photo with trembling hands, and her eyes immediately filled with tears. "Good heavens! James and Jennifer. It's been so long," she whispered. "And you, boy. Who are you?" I think I'm their son. I found these photos and documents. Do you know where they are?" The woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Dorothy, invited Nathan inside. The house was simple but cozy, with old furniture and family photographs scattered on the walls. She served a glass of ice water and sat at the kitchen table, still holding the photograph. "Son James and Jennifer lived here with me for almost 2 years. She is my niece, my late sister's daughter. They came here when you were just a little one, running away from some trouble in the city." "What kind of trouble?" asked Nathan eagerly. "It was a family matter about inheritance. James's father had died and left everything to him, but his brothers didn't accept it. They made threats, said they would harm the whole family. That's why they came to hide out here in the countryside." Mrs. Dorothy got up and went to an old cabinet, from which she took a shoebox. Inside were more photographs, letters, and a sealed envelope with the name Nathan handwritten on it. "They asked me to keep this for you in case you ever showed up looking for them. Jennifer cried so much when they made the decision to leave you with a family that could protect you better." Nathan's hands trembled as he took the envelope. Inside was a letter written in a feminine, delicate hand. "My dear son Nathan, if you are reading this, it means you have grown up and have come looking for the truth about your story. I want you to know that leaving you was the hardest decision of our lives. We did it to protect you from dangerous people who wanted to use you to force us to give up what was rightfully ours. We hope you understand, and that one day we can meet again. We love you more than words can express. Mom and Dad." Tears streamed down Nathan's face as he read the letter. Mrs. Dorothy approached and placed a caring hand on his shoulder. "They left one night, 7 years ago. They said they were going far away, where no one could find them. But they promised they would come back for you one day. Do you know where they went?" "No, son, they didn't want to say, so I wouldn't be in danger. But they left something." Mrs. Dorothy went back to the cabinet and took out a small, worn-out address book. "There are some phone numbers here. Maybe someone knows something." Nathan eagerly flipped through the book, finding numbers with names next to them. Cousin Sarah, Buddy Joe, Aunt Beatrice. His heart filled with hope. For the first time in his life, he had concrete clues about his biological family. "Mrs. Dorothy, do you have a phone? Can I try calling these numbers?" "Of course, dear. The phone is over there in the living room. But you'd better talk to your adoptive parents first. Do they know you're here?" Nathan lowered his head, ashamed. In the excitement of the discovery, he had lied and left in secret. "No, ma'am. They don't know anything about this. Actually, they lied to me. They told me my biological parents had died." Mrs. Dorothy sighed deeply. "Son, people sometimes lie to protect those they love. Maybe your adoptive parents wanted to spare you from suffering. You need to talk to them before making any decision." The boy knew she was right, but the urge to call the numbers in the book was stronger. He decided to try at least one contact before going back home. He dialed the number next to the name Cousin Sarah and waited, his heart racing. A woman's voice answered on the other end. "Hello? Hi, good afternoon. Are you Cousin Sarah?" "Yes, I am. Who is this?" "My name is Nathan. I think I'm the son of James and Jennifer Cooper." The silence on the other end lasted long seconds. When the woman spoke again, her voice was choked with emotion. "My God! Nathan, is it really you, my boy? I'm your mother Jennifer's cousin. Good Lord, how many years I've waited for this call." "Do you know where they are?" asked Nathan, trying to control his anxiety. "Yes, I do, my son. They are alive and well. They live in a small town in the countryside of Carolina, working under different names. They're still afraid of your father's brothers." The revelation hit Nathan like a bolt of lightning. His parents were alive, they were well, and they still thought of him. Tears of joy and relief streamed down his face. Do they talk about me? Oh, my boy, not a day goes by that they don't talk about you. Your mother cries every time she sees a child your age. They dream of the day they can come for you, and you can all live together again. Can I talk to them? Of course you can, my love. But listen to something. Don't say where you live. Don't give your full address, just as a precaution. Your father's brothers are still looking for you, and if they find out where you are, they could use it to blackmail your parents. Cousin Sarah gave him the phone number where they could be reached in the evening. She explained that during the day they worked on a ranch and only got home after 6 in the evening. Nathan carefully wrote everything down, feeling a mix of joy and fear. After saying goodbye, he stayed at Mrs. Dorothy's house until the sun began to set. The lady insisted he eat some lunch and told more stories about the time his parents lived there. She said they were hard-working and honest people who helped with everything on the ranch and never caused any trouble. Your father was a very intelligent man. He could read and write well. He helped people around here with paperwork and documents. Your mother had a golden touch for cooking and sewing. They were loved by everyone. Why did my father's brothers do them harm? Because your grandfather was a wealthy man. He had a lot of land and cattle. When he died, he left everything to James because he was the only one who took care of him in his old age. The other children had left town, gotten married, and never showed up again. But when it came to the inheritance, they all came back wanting their share. The story was becoming clearer. Nathan understood that his parents weren't common runaways, but victims of an unfair family dispute. This made him feel proud of his origins, contradicting years of uncertainty about his identity. When he said goodbye to Mrs. Dorothy, she hugged him tight and said, "You're just like them, boy. You have your father's determined look and your mother's kindness in your heart. They'll be so proud when they find out you tracked them down." The trip back home was slower, as Nathan pedaled thoughtfully, figuring out how he would approach Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold about his discoveries. He decided he would be direct but respectful. After all, even if they had lied, they had taken care of him for 7 years. He arrived home in the late afternoon and found his 2 adoptive parents talking quietly on the porch. When they saw him arrive, Mrs. Margaret stood up quickly. "Nathan, where were you? We looked everywhere. I was going crazy with worry." "I need to talk to you about something important," said the boy, getting off his bike. Mr. Harold approached, noticing the seriousness in the boy's tone. "What happened, son? You look like you've seen a ghost." Nathan took a deep breath and decided to get straight to the point. "I found a box with photos and documents in the woods today. They're from my birth parents. I found out you lied to me about them." The silence that followed was awkward. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold exchanged tense looks, as if they always knew this day would come. "Sit here, Nathan," said Mrs. Margaret, motioning to a chair on the porch. "It's time you knew the truth." The 3 of them sat down and Mr. Harold began to speak, choosing his words carefully. "Your parents didn't die, boy. They came here one night 7 years ago, desperate, asking us to take care of you for a while. They said they were being pursued and that you couldn't stay with them because you were in danger." "Why did you lie then?" asked Nathan, feeling a mix of relief and anger. Mrs. Margaret sighed deeply. "Because we thought it would be easier for you to grow up thinking they were gone. A child suffers less when they aren't waiting for something that might never happen." "But did they promise to come back?" "They promised," admitted Mr. Harold. "They said when you turned 15 and the situation had calmed down, they'd come back to get you. But the years went by and we got used to having you here. We became a real family." Nathan felt his heart break. He could see the genuine love in his adoptive parents' eyes, but he also felt the pain of the lie that had lasted so many years. "Did they leave anything for me? Any way to contact them?" Mrs. Margaret lowered her eyes, ashamed. "Yes, they did. There's an envelope kept in our room with a letter and an address, but we decided not to give it to you, at least not yet." "I want to see that letter," demanded Nathan, standing up. "Son, you don't need to be angry with us," pleaded Mr. Harold. "We did what we thought was best at the time. How can you say you did what was best? That was my right. It was my family, exploded Nathan, all the emotions of the day coming to the surface. Mrs. Margaret began to cry softly. We're afraid, Nathan. Afraid you'll leave and we'll be alone again. You're all we have. The woman's emotional confession disarmed some of the boy's anger. He realized that despite the mistakes, Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold truly loved him like a son. I won't just leave like that out of nowhere, said Nathan calmer. But I need to know the truth about my story. I need to know who I really am. Mr. Harold stood up and went inside the house, returning a few minutes later with a yellowed envelope. He handed it to Nathan with trembling hands. Here, this was meant for you on your 15th birthday, but maybe it's better if you read it right now. Nathan opened the envelope carefully, finding a letter similar to the one he had read at Mrs. Dorothy's house, but this one was longer and more detailed. His biological parents explained the whole inheritance situation, apologized for leaving him, and left a contact address in a town called Palm Grove in Carolina. There's one more thing, Nathan, said Mrs. Margaret, drying her tears. They send money for you every month. We saved it all in a savings account. There's over $15,000 there. This revelation left Nathan even more surprised. His biological parents not only remembered him but were financially contributing to his upbringing, even from a distance. Do they know how I am? Do they know I'm okay? We send a photo and a letter twice a year, admitted Mr. Harold. We tell them how you're doing in school, if you're growing up well, things like that. But we always asked them not to try direct contact. Why? Because we were afraid you'd get confused, torn between two families, and also because they asked to do it this way, so as not to raise your hopes. Nathan shook his head, processing all the information. His entire life had been built on a foundation of well-intentioned lies, but lies nonetheless. I want to talk to them, he announced. Tonight, I'll call the phone number in the letter. Nathan, think about this carefully, pleaded Mrs. Margaret. What if they want you to go there? What if you never come back? Then we'll have to accept it, said Mr. Harold, surprising his wife. The boy has a right to know his parents. We always knew this day would come. The evening arrived slowly, with Nathan counting the minutes until he could make the call. During dinner, the mood at home was tense, but not hostile. It was as if everyone was processing a new reality unfolding before them. At 8 o'clock, Nathan dialed the number from the letter. On the other end, a male voice answered. Hello? Hi, good evening. I'd like to speak with James Cooper. Speaking. Who am I talking to? Nathan's heart raced. It was the first time in 12 years he had heard his biological father's voice. Dad, it's Nathan. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then Nathan heard sobs and the man's choked voice. My son, my boy. Good Lord, is it really you? It's me, Dad. I found out everything today. Cousin Sarah gave me your number. Hold on, let me get your mother. Jennifer, come quick. It's Nathan. Nathan heard running footsteps and a woman's voice in the background asking, Is it really him? Then his biological mother took the phone. My love? My little boy? Her voice was choked with tears. Hi, Mom, said Nathan, also crying. How are you, my angel? Did you grow a lot? Are you strong and healthy? I'm fine, Mom. I'm big now. I'm 12. I know, son. We keep up with everything. Mrs. Margaret sends us your photos. You're handsome, looking more like your father every day. The conversation lasted over an hour, with his biological parents telling him about their life in Carolina, their work on the ranch, and how they thought of him every day. They explained in detail why they had to flee and why they couldn't return yet. Son, your father's uncles found out we were alive and started looking again. They even hired a private detective. That's why we can't come back yet. When will you be able to come back? We don't know, my love. Maybe never. But we're saving money to bring you here, if you want to come. The offer left Nathan torn. On one hand, he really wanted to meet his biological parents and live with them. On the other hand, he didn't want to hurt Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold, who had cared for him so lovingly. Can I think about it a little? Of course, son, there's no rush. We waited 12 years, we can wait a little longer. The important thing is that now you know we're here and that we love you very much." When he hung up the phone, Nathan found Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold waiting anxiously in the living room. "So," asked Mrs. Margaret, "they want me to go there, but I don't know if I want to go." The relief on his adoptive parents' faces was visible. Mr. Harold approached and put his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Son, whatever decision you make, we'll support you. You'll always have a place here with us no matter what happens. And if they come here to visit us?" "They'll be welcome," said Mrs. Margaret. "It's long past time we met our boy's parents." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. The following week, Nathan's life completely changed pace. He spoke with his biological parents every day on the phone, learning details about his family and his history that he had never known. He discovered he had living paternal grandparents, aunts and cousins scattered across several cities. James told him he had studied through high school and had always dreamed of studying veterinary medicine, but had to drop out to care for his sick father. Jennifer was a primary school teacher before they fled and had plans to return to teaching when the situation normalized. "Son, we kept all your baby things," said Jennifer during one of the calls. "The crib, the little clothes, the toys. It's all in a box, waiting for the day you come home." These conversations filled Nathan's heart with a joy he had never experienced, but also created an internal conflict. He saw the discreet suffering in Mrs. Margaret's eyes whenever he spoke on the phone, and that left him torn. One afternoon, while helping Mr. Harold fix the back fence, the older man decided to address the matter directly. "Nathan, I need to tell you something. We want you to be happy, even if that means you leaving here." "Mr. Harold, I don't want to hurt you." "You won't hurt us, son. We always knew you had another family. We just didn't expect this day to come so soon. Are you afraid I'll leave?" Mr. Harold stopped hammering the wood and looked directly at Nathan. "Yes, we are. I won't lie to you. But fear can't be a reason to hold someone back. If you decide to go to Carolina, we'll miss you, but we'll understand. And if I decide to stay? Then we'll be happy, but we'll know you have family elsewhere, and that you have the right to visit them whenever you want." The honest conversation with Mr. Harold helped Nathan understand that he didn't have to choose definitively between the two families. He could maintain ties with both, each occupying a different place in his heart. That night, during the daily call to his biological parents, Nathan proposed an idea he had been formulating throughout the day. "Dad, Mum, what if you came to visit me first, before I decide anything about going there?" "Son, that would be very dangerous," explained James. "If my brothers find out where we are, but they don't even know you found me, right? You could come in disguise, stay just a few days." Jennifer spoke softly with her husband before answering. "It is an idea, yes. We could come by bus without identification, just to meet you in person and talk with Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold. Would it be safe?" "I think so, if we're careful. It's been so long since we've seen you. You're almost a man now." They arranged that James and Jennifer would come the following week, arriving on a Thursday and leaving on Sunday. It would be a quick but meaningful meeting. Nathan told the plan to his adoptive parents, who were nervous but agreed to receive the visit. Mrs. Margaret spent the next days cleaning the house obsessively and planning what to cook to impress the visitors well. "Margaret, relax," Mr. Harold would ask. "They're not going to judge us by the house or the food." "I know. But I want them to see that we took good care of their boy, that he was raised in a good home, even if it's simple." On Thursday morning, Nathan could barely concentrate in class. He kept looking at the clock, calculating how much time was left until the bus arrived at the neighboring town's bus station. His biological parents would arrive at 3 in the afternoon. At 2:30, he, Mrs. Margaret, and Mr. Harold were at the bus stop, waiting. The nervousness was palpable. Nathan tried to imagine what it would be like to see in person the people he only knew from old photographs and phone conversations. When the bus stopped and people began to get off, Nathan felt his heart in his throat. A young couple, he looking about 40 and she about 35, looked around searching for someone they knew. Nathan recognized them immediately, even after so many years. "Dad!" "Mum!" he shouted, running toward them. The hug was intense and emotional. Jennifer cried while caressing her son's face, as if wanting to memorize every detail. James lifted him off the ground, even though Nathan was already tall for his age. "My boy, how you've grown," said Jennifer, unable to stop crying. "Wow, you're almost my height," joked James, also emotional. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold approached discreetly, waiting to be introduced. Nathan remembered them and made the introductions. "Dad, Mom, these are Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold. They took care of me all these years." James extended his hand to Mr. Harold, but ended up being surprised by a hug from the older man. "Thank you for taking care of our boy," said James, emotional. "He's a son to us too," replied Mr. Harold. Jennifer hugged Mrs. Margaret for a long time, whispering thank you several times. It was a touching moment, with two mothers sharing love for the same son. The way home was filled with lively conversations. James and Jennifer wanted to know everything about Nathan's life, how he was doing in school, what his favorite games were, if he had friends, if he helped at home. Mrs. Margaret answered proudly, telling about the boy's good grades and exemplary behavior. At home, Jennifer admired every corner where her son had grown up. She entered his room, observed the school notebooks, the few toys, the clothes hanging in the improvised closet. "He was well taken care of," she said to Mrs. Margaret. "I see he received a lot of love here." "He is a special boy," replied Mrs. Margaret. "He never gave us trouble, always respectful and affectionate." During lunch, the two families talked about various subjects. James and Jennifer told about their life in Carolina, the work on the ranch, their plans for the future. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold talked about the local community, about how Nathan integrated well in school and helped with the household chores. "Do you have any idea when the situation will be resolved?" asked Mr. Harold. "We're not sure," admitted James. "My brothers are stubborn. They hired a lawyer and are trying to contest my father's will even after all this time." "But wasn't the will clear?" "It was, yes. My father left everything to me because I was the only one who stayed to take care of him when he got sick. My brothers had left town, married, started their own families. They only showed up occasionally on holidays. So why do they keep harassing you?" Jennifer sighed before answering. "Because the inheritance is very large. There are 3 ranches, a house in the city, cattle, and a considerable amount in the bank. They think that by intimidating us, we'll give up and split everything with them." "And can't you do that? Just divide it and be done?" "We could if they asked properly," said James. "But they started with threats, saying they would kidnap Nathan, that they would harm our family. You can't negotiate with people like that." Nathan listened to everything in silence, beginning to better understand the complexity of the situation. It wasn't just a matter of money, but of safety and dignity. "And if they find out where you live now?" "That's why we use false names and avoid contact with the family. It's sad to live like this, but it's the price of our safety and Nathan's safety." During the afternoon, James and Jennifer took Nathan for a walk around the city, wanting to see the places where their son had grown up. They went to the school, the church, the square where he played with friends. It was a way of participating, even if belatedly, in the childhood they had lost. "Son, if you decide to come live with us, you'll be able to study at a good school there in Palm Grove. The town is small, but it has everything you need. And if I prefer to stay here, then we'll understand and we'll keep visiting you whenever possible. The important thing is that now you know you have a family that loves you and wants you close." That night, after dinner, the two families sat on the porch to talk more. The atmosphere was relaxed, as if they were relatives reuniting after a long time. "James, can I ask a personal question?" said Mr. Harold. "Of course. Do you regret leaving Nathan?" James and Jennifer looked at each other before answering. "Every day," said Jennifer. "But we know it was the right decision. If he had stayed with us, he could have suffered some kind of violence. Here with you he grew up in peace and safety." "You are good people," said James. "We can tell by the way Nathan speaks of you, by the respect he has. That doesn't happen by chance." "He is also a special boy," replied Mrs. Margaret. "Since he was little, he was always mature, responsible, easy to raise." "He got that from his mother," joked James, making Jennifer smile. On Friday, Nathan skipped school to stay with his biological parents. They went to the bank to check the savings account that had been created in the boy's name, visited Mrs. Dorothy at the ranch, where they had hidden years ago, and passed by the place where Nathan had found the abandoned car. "How did you discover that car?" asked Jennifer. "By chance. I was walking through the woods and saw something strange among the trees. When I forced the door open, I found the box with the photos." "It was fate," said James. "When we fled, I left that box there, thinking that maybe one day you might find it. It was a way of leaving a clue for you." "So, you knew I would find it?" "I hoped. Knowing you since you were a baby, I knew you were curious and liked to explore. I thought one day you would end up finding that place." The revelation that the discovery of the car hadn't been entirely accidental left Nathan impressed with his father's planning ability. James had thought of everything, including the possibility of his son finding clues about his origins. On Saturday, the two families went together to the town church. It was important for James and Jennifer to give thanks for having found their son and for him having been well cared for. During the Mass, Nathan observed how his biological and adoptive parents interacted naturally, without jealousy or competition. After the Mass, the priest, who knew Nathan well and his adoption story, was surprised to learn that the biological parents were alive and visiting the town. "It's a blessing for everyone," said the priest. "Nathan is a special boy, and now I see he was surrounded by love from all sides." "Father, I wanted to ask your opinion about something," said James. "We're thinking of taking Nathan to live with us. Do you think it's the right decision?" The priest thought for a few moments before answering. "My son, decisions about family don't have a right or wrong answer. They have an answer that works for each specific situation. Nathan is well here. He has roots, friends, a structured life. But he also has the right to know his parents and live with them if he wants. And how do we find out what's best? By asking him, and by respecting any answer he gives, even if it's not the one you'd like to hear." On Sunday morning, the last day of the visit, Nathan woke up with a tightness in his heart. He knew that after lunch his biological parents would catch the bus back to Carolina, and he didn't know when he would see them again. During breakfast, the subject everyone had been avoiding finally came up. "Son," said Jennifer, "the time has come for you to decide what you want to do. Do you want to come with us to Carolina, or do you prefer to stay here?" Nathan looked at the four people he loved most in the world and felt the weight of the decision. He knew that any choice he made would leave someone sad. "Can I give an answer you might not expect?" he asked. "Of course, speak." "I want to stay here for now, but I want you to come visit me whenever you can, and I want to be able to go spend vacations with you too." The relief on Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold's faces was evident, but James and Jennifer seemed slightly disappointed. "Why that decision, son?" asked James. "Because here is where I grew up, where I have friends, where I feel at home. But you are my parents, and I want to get to know you better, to spend time with you. I just don't want to have to choose between two families that love me." Jennifer approached and hugged her son. "It's a wise decision, my love. It shows you're maturing and can think of everyone's good, not just your own." "And you're not upset?" "We are a little sad, yes," admitted James, "but we understand and respect it. What's important is that now we can be part of your life, even if from a distance. And when the situation with the aunt and uncle is resolved, then we'll talk again. Maybe you'll want to come live with us. Maybe we'll come back here. We'll decide together, as a family." The word family, in that context, had a special meaning. Nathan realized that family wasn't just who gave birth to him or who raised him, but all those who loved him and cared for his well-being. During the farewell lunch, Mrs. Margaret went all out in her preparations, making the foods she most loved to cook. James and Jennifer praised everything, creating a warm, family atmosphere. "Margaret, you cook very well," said Jennifer. "Nathan is lucky to grow up eating this delicious food. I learned from my mother, who learned from her mother. It's a family recipe. Maybe you can teach me some recipes over the phone. That way I can make food that reminds Nathan of home when he comes to visit us." The idea of the two mothers sharing recipes touched Nathan deeply. It was another sign that the two families could coexist harmoniously. At the time of the farewell at the bus stop, everyone cried. James hugged Mr. Harold and said, "Thank you for being a father to my son when I couldn't be. That is priceless." "And thank you for giving us the chance to be parents," replied Mr. Harold. "Nathan brought joy to our home." Jennifer hugged Mrs. Margaret for a long time. "We'll keep in touch always. Now we're family too. You can count on me for anything. And come visit us whenever you can." Finally, James and Jennifer embraced Nathan together. "My son, you know we love you very much. Anything you need, anytime you want to talk to us, just call. I love you too, Dad and Mum, and I promise I'll visit you on my next vacation." "We'll be waiting," said Jennifer, kissing her son's forehead. When the bus departed, Nathan kept watching until it disappeared around the bend in the road. He felt a mix of sadness at the farewell and joy at the certainty that he now had two complete families in his life. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The following week, life returned to normal, but with one important difference. Nathan now knew exactly who he was and where he came from. His nightly calls to Carolina became a family ritual, with Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold always asking how James and Jennifer were doing. At school, Nathan told his closest friends about discovering his birth parents. The reaction was one of curiosity and admiration, with some classmates saying they were jealous of him for having two families. "Nathan, are you really going to visit them on vacation?" asked his best friend Tyler. "Yes, I am. My birth mother said they have a very large ranch there with horses and everything. Maybe you could come with me one day." "Really? That would be so cool." "I'll ask them. I think they'd like to meet my friends." The prospect of vacation in Carolina excited Nathan, but he was also thrilled about the possibility of his birth parents visiting him again. James had promised they would return at Christmas, this time staying longer. 1 month after the first visit, Nathan received an unexpected call. It was cousin Sarah, the woman who had helped connect him with his parents. "Nathan, my boy, I need to talk to you about something important." "What happened, cousin Sarah?" "Your father's uncles found out that you met. Someone saw you together there in town and mentioned it to acquaintances. The news reached them." Nathan's heart froze. This meant his parents could be in danger again. "And now? Will they have to move again?" "We don't know yet. Your father is talking with a lawyer there in Atlanta to see what the legal options are. Maybe it's time to face the situation head on." "How so?" "Maybe it's better to settle this inheritance issue once and for all, through the courts. Running forever is no way to live." Nathan discussed the situation with Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold, who were worried but supported whatever decision James and Jennifer made. "If they decide to confront his brothers in court, we support it," said Mr. Harold, "and if they need anything, we'll be here." 2 days later, James called with news that changed everything. "Son, we've decided to return to West Virginia. We're going to confront my brothers in court and settle this situation once and for all." "You're coming back here?" asked Nathan, excited. "Not exactly there. We're going to Charlotte, where the office of the lawyer advising us is located, but it's much closer to you." "And what if your uncles try to harm you?" "The lawyer said we now have legal protection. Any threat or violence against us can be reported. My brothers aren't criminals, they're just greedy. The moment they see they could go to jail, they'll back down." The prospect of his birth parents returning to West Virginia, even if to another city, left Nathan excited. It meant they could see each other more often. "When are you arriving?" "Next week, and we want you to come with us to Charlotte for the weekend, to see the city and the apartment we rented." "Can I go, Mrs. Margaret?" asked Nathan, covering the phone. "Of course you can, son. It'll be good for you to see where they're going to live." The trip to Charlotte over the weekend was an adventure for Nathan, who had never visited a big city. James and Jennifer took him to see tourist spots, malls, and the simple but comfortable apartment where they were living. "Son, if you want, you can come spend some weekends here with us. It's just a 2-hour bus ride from Clear Springs. That would be cool. I could get to know the whole city. And when we settle the inheritance matter, we'll be able to offer a better life for you if you want to come live here." "What kind of better life?" Private school, English lessons, sports, those kinds of things we couldn't give you before because of our financial situation. The offer was tempting, but Nathan still didn't feel ready to leave Clear Springs for good. He decided he would keep visiting and see how things would develop. 3 months later, the legal situation began to resolve. James's lawyer managed to prove that Nathan's grandfather's will was valid, and that the threats made by his uncles constituted the crime of coercion. They were summoned to appear in court and to stop the harassment. The judge ruled that if they want to contest the inheritance, they have to do so through legal means without threats or intimidation, explained James during one of the calls. And did they accept? They had no choice. Their lawyer advised them to make a deal, splitting part of the inheritance with them in exchange for leaving us in peace. And did you accept? Yes. It's not out of greed that we want my father's money. It's for justice. But if splitting a little means peace for our family, it's worth it. The agreement was finalized 2 months later, with James getting the largest share of the inheritance, 60%, and the other 2 siblings splitting the remaining 40%. Even so, the amount left was enough to ensure a comfortable life for the family. With the situation resolved, James and Jennifer could finally think about the future without fear. They decided to settle permanently in Charlotte and started a small business, a store of rural supplies for people who wanted to have home gardens. Son, what about now? With everything settled, do you want to come live with us in the big city? Asked Jennifer during a visit to Clear Springs. Nathan, who was now 13 and more mature, thought carefully before answering. I want to finish middle school here with my friends. After that, if you want, I can go do high school there in Charlotte. That would be great, said James. That way you don't lose your roots, but you also get the chance to study at a better school. And do Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold agree with this? The adoptive parents, who were present for the conversation, looked at each other before answering. If that's what you want, we support it, said Mrs. Margaret. And Charlotte isn't that far. We can visit each other often. Of course, said Jennifer. You are family too. Our home will always be open to you. In the following months, Nathan continued living his routine in Clear Springs, but now with regular visits to Charlotte. He got to know the city better and better, made friends with some boys from the building where his parents lived, and got excited about the prospect of studying at a bigger school. James and Jennifer's store was prospering, serving people who wanted to grow organic food at home. They had found an interesting market niche and were professionally fulfilled. Son, do you want to work with us during the holidays? Offered James. You can learn about business and even earn a little money. Can I really? That would be so cool. Of course, you have a knack for dealing with people and you understand plants. It would be a good experience. The July school break was spent entirely in Charlotte, with Nathan helping at the store and learning the secrets of the trade. James taught him about suppliers, pricing, customer service. Jennifer showed him how to care for the plants and explained the properties of each species. Son, you have a talent for this, Jennifer said one day, watching as Nathan patiently explained to a customer how to care for a herb garden. You can explain things in a simple way that everyone understands. I got it from you, Nathan joked. Cousin Sarah said you were a teacher. I was, yes, and maybe I will be again one day. I'm thinking about taking a course to update my knowledge and go back to teaching. That would be cool. Then you could teach me when I come to study here. The idea of having his mother as a teacher excited Nathan. It would be a way to recover some of the lost time, with Jennifer being able to closely follow his academic development. During this break, Nathan also got to know his paternal family better. The uncles who had so pursued his parents turned out to be normal people when met in person. Greed had blinded them temporarily, but the legal settlement had brought them to reason. Nathan, you've grown so much, said Uncle Gerald, James's older brother. You look just like your father at that age. Do you remember my father as a child? Of course. We played a lot together. Your father was always smart and determined. When he wanted something, he wouldn't give up until he got it. And why did you all fight with him? Uncle Gerald lowered his eyes, ashamed. Because we were greedy, boy. We saw all that money and thought only of ourselves. We forgot that your father was the one who took care of our father when he got sick. It was unfair of us. But is everything okay now? Yes, it is. We learned that family is more important than money, and you gained 2 uncles who want to make up for lost time. The reconciliation with the paternal family was a relief for everyone. Nathan discovered he had an extended family with cousins of various ages and uncles who wanted to get to know him better. At the end of the break, as he was returning to Clear Springs, Nathan reflected on how his life had changed in just over a year. From an orphan boy who didn't know his origins, he had become the son of 2 families who loved him, with future prospects that once seemed impossible. Back at school, Nathan was more mature and confident. His teachers noticed the change, commenting that he was more participatory and interested in his studies. "Nathan, would you like to present a project about your family?" suggested his history teacher. "Your story is interesting and could inspire other students." "Can I talk about both families?" "Of course. That's what makes your story special." The project about his family was a success at school. Nathan talked about discovering his biological parents, the harmonious relationship between the 2 families, and how he learned that family isn't defined only by blood ties. "The conclusion of my project is that family is whoever loves and takes care of you," Nathan told the class. "I'm lucky to have 2 families like that." After the presentation, several classmates came to talk to him, some sharing their own complicated family stories. Nathan realized his experience could help other people going through similar situations. "Nathan, have you ever thought about being a psychologist or a social worker?" suggested the teacher. "You have a knack for dealing with family matters." "Actually, I was thinking about business administration. I want to learn to manage my parents' business." "That's also a good option. You could study business administration and later specialize in family management or something like that." The idea of studying business administration grew stronger during the year. Nathan began to follow James and Jennifer's business more closely, suggesting ideas and observing how the market worked. "Dad, have you ever thought about selling products online?" "How do you mean, son?" "There are a lot of people who live far from rural supply stores. If you created a website, you could sell to the entire United States." James and Jennifer looked at each other, impressed with their son's business vision. "That's an interesting idea, but we don't understand anything about the internet." "I can learn. There's a computer course at school, and in Charlotte there must be even better courses." "You would do that?" "Of course. It would be a way to help you and learn about business at the same time." The conversation planted a seed that would grow in the following years. Nathan began to take an increasing interest in technology and entrepreneurship, seeing in the combination of the 2 fields a possibility for a promising future. That Christmas, the 2 families gathered for the first time in Clear Springs to celebrate together. James and Jennifer rented a small house for a week and brought some relatives from Charlotte. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold invited neighbors and close friends. "I never imagined that one day I would have so many dear people gathered at a Christmas party," Nathan said to Mrs. Margaret while helping to prepare the dinner. "It's a blessing, son. That's what family is. The more people to love, the better." "Don't you feel jealous of my biological parents?" "At first I did a little, yes. I was afraid you would leave and forget about us. But then I saw that love doesn't diminish when it's shared. It only grows." "How so?" "You love them, and you love us too. And that makes you a better, more caring person. If I tried to stop you from meeting your parents, I would be harming you, not protecting you." Mrs. Margaret's wisdom impressed Nathan. She had overcome fear and jealousy to allow him to have a complete family, even knowing that it meant sharing the love of her adoptive son. During the Christmas dinner, James made an emotional toast. "I want to thank Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold for raising our son with so much love. I want to thank God for us having found each other again, and I want to thank Nathan for being mature enough to keep both families united." "I'm the one who's thankful," Nathan replied, "for having parents who brought me into the world with love, and parents who raised me with love. I'm the luckiest boy in the world." The tears in everyone's eyes showed that this was not just a family reunited, but an example of how love can overcome any obstacle. At the beginning of the following year, Nathan started his final year of middle school with a decision made. He would go to Charlotte for high school. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold were sad, but understood it was best for the boy's future. "Son, "Whenever you want to come back home, your bed will be here," said Mrs. Margaret. "And during vacations, I want you here helping in the garden," added Mr. Harold. "Of course, Clear Springs will always be my home too." The last months of middle school were dedicated to preparing the transition to Charlotte. Nathan said goodbye to his friends, promising to keep in touch, and participated in all school activities knowing they were the last at that school. "Nathan, you'll be missed here," said his favorite teacher. "You were one of the most involved and beloved students at the school." "Teacher, I promise I'll come back to visit often. And who knows, maybe one day I can even give talks here about entrepreneurship. That would be wonderful. You can be an example to other students that it's possible to succeed in life even coming from difficult origins." The middle school graduation was a special moment, with both families present to see Nathan receive his diploma. In the official photo, he appears in the center, surrounded by Mrs. Margaret, Mr. Harold, James and Jennifer, an image that perfectly symbolized his journey. During the vacation before the move to Charlotte, Nathan split his time between the two cities, making the final preparations for the new phase of his life. In Clear Springs, he helped Mr. Harold renovate the vegetable garden and taught techniques he had learned at his biological parents' store. In Charlotte, he visited the school where he would study and enrolled in computer and English courses. "Son, are you ready for this change?" asked Jennifer, worried about his adjustment. "Yes, I am, Mom, and I know you'll help me with everything I need." "Of course we will, but remember, if you don't adjust, you can come back to Clear Springs anytime. That won't be necessary. I'm excited about the challenges ahead." The move to Charlotte happened in early February, a week before classes started. Nathan settled into the room that James and Jennifer had prepared especially for him, decorated with photos from both families and with a computer for his computer studies. Adjusting to the new school was easier than expected. Nathan soon made friends and stood out in class, especially in math and science. His teachers were impressed by his maturity and his interest in learning. "Nathan is an exceptional student," the academic coordinator commented to Jennifer during a parent-teacher meeting. "He has a very clear vision of the future for a 14-year-old boy. He's been through a lot in life," Jennifer explained. "That made him more mature than average." "Yes, we noticed that. He has a natural leadership ability. The other students respect him and turn to him when they have questions." On weekends, when he didn't return to Clear Springs, Nathan helped at his parents' store and developed his ideas about online sales. He created a store profile on social media and began posting gardening tips, attracting followers interested in the products. "Dad, look how many people are following our page. It's already over 1,000 followers." "Is that good?" "It's great. It means 1,000 people might be interested in our products. If just 10% buy, that's already 100 sales." James was impressed by how easily his son understood the digital world, an area completely new to him and Jennifer. "Son, are you sure you want to work with us? Wouldn't you rather pursue your own career?" "Dad, my dream is to turn our store into a big company. Imagine if we could sell rural products to the entire United States. That would be incredible." Nathan's ambition was contagious. James and Jennifer began to dream along with him, glimpsing possibilities they had never imagined. By the end of his first year of high school, Nathan had distinguished himself as one of the best students in the school and had already implemented several improvements to the family business. Online sales represented 30% of the store's revenue, an impressive number for someone who had started from scratch. "Mom, Dad, I want to propose something to you," Nathan said during dinner. "Go ahead, son." "How about we apply for a bank loan to expand the business? With what I've learned about digital marketing, I can make our company grow a lot." "Don't you think that's too risky?" "Every business has risk, Dad. But we have knowledge, we have good products, and I have ideas to reach more customers. I think it's worth trying." James and Jennifer decided to consult an accountant and a lawyer before making the decision. The professionals were impressed with the business plan Nathan had prepared, detailed and realistic. "This boy has a bright future in business," commented the accountant. "His plan is solid and well-founded." "And he's only 15, added Jennifer proudly. "That makes it even more impressive. You have a born entrepreneur in the family. With the professional's endorsement, the family decided to apply for the loan and expand the business. Nathan officially took responsibility for digital marketing and online expansion, while James and Jennifer handled the physical store operations. The results came quickly. Within 6 months, the company had doubled in size, serving customers in 5 US states. Nathan was invited to give talks on youth entrepreneurship at schools and universities. "I never imagined my son would become a speaker before even finishing high school," Jennifer joked with Mrs. Margaret during a visit to Clear Springs. "He was always special," replied Mrs. Margaret. "Even as a little boy, he showed he was going to be different. The credit is yours too. You gave him a solid foundation of values and education. Without that, all the intelligence in the world wouldn't matter." During these visits to Clear Springs, Nathan liked to stop by the place where he had found the moss-covered car. The vehicle was no longer there. It had been removed by the city, but the spot remained special to him. "This is where it all began," he would say to himself, remembering the day his life had changed forever. Mr. Harold sometimes accompanied him on these walks through the woods. "Don't you regret searching for your biological parents?" he asked once. "Never, Mr. Harold. Discovering my origin gave me inner peace. Now I know exactly who I am and where I come from." "And weren't you confused having 2 families?" "At first I was a little, yes, but then I understood it's not confusing, it's a privilege. I have twice the love and twice the support. You've grown so much emotionally, son. You became a man before your time. I learned that life isn't simple, but it can be good even when it's complicated. The important thing is to have people who love you by your side." In his sophomore year of high school, Nathan received an unexpected offer. A technology company from New York wanted to hire him as a digital marketing consultant, even though he was still a minor. "Son, what do you think of this offer?" asked James. "It's tempting, but I prefer to continue with our own business. I'm learning much more being an entrepreneur than I would being an employee." "Are you sure? The salary they're offering is very good." "Dad, money is something we earn by working, but knowledge and experience in one's own business are more valuable in the long run." Refusing the offer showed that Nathan wasn't just interested in making quick money, but in building something lasting with his family. During the mid-year break, Nathan decided to implement a project he had been planning for months, creating a network of small, rural producer suppliers for the company. The idea was to train family farmers in the Clear Springs region to produce seedlings and seeds with commercial quality. "Son, this idea is brilliant," said Mr. Harold when Nathan explained the project. "It's going to help a lot of people here in the region." "That's what I want, Mr. Harold. To grow, but without forgetting where I came from. I want Clear Springs to benefit from our success." The project was an immediate success. 15 families from the region registered as suppliers, receiving training and equipment to produce standardized seedlings. Nathan's company bought all the produce, guaranteeing a fixed income for the farmers. "Nathan, you are changing people's lives here in the region," commented the mayor of Clear Springs during the project's official inauguration. "It's the least I can do for the town that raised me, Mr. Mayor. Clear Springs will always have a special place in my heart." The project's impact caught the attention of the local media. Nathan was interviewed by newspapers and radio stations, always highlighting the importance of both families' support in his journey. "What would you say was most important in your upbringing?" asked a journalist. "The unconditional love of my 2 families. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold gave me security and values. James and Jennifer gave me origin and purpose. Without any of these elements, I wouldn't be who I am today." "And what is your advice for other young entrepreneurs?" "To believe in their dreams, but never forget their roots. Success only makes sense when it can be shared with those we love." By the end of his sophomore year of high school, the family business had become one of the country's largest online distributors of rural products. Nathan was invited to participate in a TV program about young entrepreneurs, where he told his story from the discovery of the car in the woods. "This story sounds like fiction, but it's true," commented the host. "A boy accidentally finds the documents of the parents he thought had died, and 15 years later, he's building a business empire. The important thing wasn't finding the documents, but what I did with the opportunities that arose afterward," Nathan replied. Anyone can get a lucky break. What makes the difference is the hard work that follows. During the program, Nathan moved the audience by publicly thanking both families and telling how they came together to support him. I want to thank Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold, who raised me with love when I needed it most, and James and Jennifer, my biological parents, who gave me life and purpose. Without any of them, I wouldn't be here today. After the program, Nathan received hundreds of messages from people who identified with his story or wanted to learn about the company's products. Online sales grew 200% the week after the broadcast. "Son, you've become a public figure," Jennifer joked. "I hope this is used for good things. I want to inspire other young people to believe in their dreams." In his senior year of high school, Nathan had already decided he would study business administration in Charlotte itself, so he could continue managing the company. He received several scholarship offers from prestigious universities, but preferred to stay close to family and the business. "Son, are you sure you don't want to try university in New York or Miami?" asked James. "Dad, knowledge is everywhere. What matters is the dedication of the student, and here I can study and work at the same time. You know we support any decision you make." "I know. And that's exactly why I prefer to stay close to you. Family is more important than university prestige." High school graduation was another memorable moment, with both families present to celebrate another of Nathan's achievements. The orphan boy, who had found documents in an abandoned car, was now graduating as the top student in his class and the owner of a thriving company. "Who would have thought that curious little boy I found playing in the woods would one day become all this?" commented Mrs. Dorothy, the lady who had kept the first documents during the graduation party. "Mrs. Dorothy, you were fundamental in my story. If it weren't for your help that day, I might never have found my parents. God puts the right people in the right place at the right time, my son. I just did what anyone would do." "Not anyone. You were special. You will always be part of our family." During his graduation speech, Nathan chose to speak about family and opportunities, inspiring his classmates with his unique journey. "Classmates, we've learned over these years that life holds surprises for us. Some good, others not so much. What defines our future is not the surprises, but how we react to them. I was fortunate to find documents that changed my life, but that luck would have been for nothing if I hadn't seized the opportunities that came afterward." The audience applauded emotionally, especially Nathan's two families, who were crying with pride. "I want to finish by thanking the most important people in my life. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold, who taught me values and gave me unconditional love. James and Jennifer, my biological parents, who showed me where I came from and where I can go. And all the friends and family who were part of this journey. Without you, none of this would be possible." After the graduation, Nathan had a few free weeks before starting college. He decided to use that time for a special trip, taking Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold to visit Carolina and the places where his biological parents had hidden for 7 years. "We've never traveled so far," said Mrs. Margaret, excited at the prospect. "Then it's time to see other places. You deserve this trip after everything you've done for me." The trip was emotional for everyone. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold saw the places where James and Jennifer had worked, met the people who had helped them during the years in hiding, and could better understand the journey Nathan's biological parents had faced. "Now I understand why they are so fond of you," Mrs. Margaret said to one of James's former employers. "You treated them like family." "They were special people," the man replied. "Hard workers, honest, always willing to help. We felt they were running from something, but they were never a problem for anyone." "And Nathan, did they talk about him?" "Every day. Jennifer would cry whenever she saw a child Nathan's age at the time. James worked double shifts to save money and send it to you. We could see how painful it was for them to be away from their son." The conversation helped Mrs. Margaret better understand the sacrifice Nathan's biological parents had made. It wasn't abandonment, but protection. It wasn't a lack of love, but an excess of care. During the trip, the two families got to know each other even better, strengthening bonds that were already strong. James and Mr. Harold discovered they had a lot in common, both being hard-working men dedicated to their families. Jennifer and Mrs. Margaret grew even closer, exchanging recipes and stories about raising Nathan. "Jennifer, thank you for trusting Nathan to us," said Mrs. Margaret during a dinner in Carolina. "Thank you for taking care of him with so much love," replied Jennifer. "You gave him everything we couldn't give him at the time. We just did what any father and mother would do for a son." "Exactly. You were true parents to him. That is priceless." Back in West Virginia, Nathan started college motivated and with clear goals. He wanted to learn everything about business administration to further professionalize the family business. His professors were impressed with the practical knowledge he already possessed. "Nathan, you already know more about entrepreneurship than many of our graduates," commented a professor after a presentation on success stories. "It's just that I had the chance to learn by doing, Professor. Theory without practice is just abstract knowledge. Would you be interested in giving talks to other students about your experience?" "Of course. It would be a pleasure to share what I've learned." Nathan's talks at the college became famous. Students from other courses came to watch his presentations on entrepreneurship, digital marketing, and family management. "The secret to success," Nathan would say during one of his talks, "isn't just about having good ideas. It's about having a family that supports you, not being afraid to work hard and never forgetting where you came from." In the second semester of college, Nathan received an offer that left him in doubt. A large multinational company wanted to buy his business for an amount that would guarantee the financial independence of his entire family. "Son, the decision is yours," said James during a family meeting. "If you think it's better to sell, we support you. But what about you? What will you do if we sell?" "We'll retire and enjoy life," joked Jennifer, "or invest in another, smaller business just to keep busy." "And what about Mr. Harold and Mrs. Margaret? Where do they stand in this story?" "We don't need anything, son," said Mr. Harold. "Just knowing that you are well and happy is enough. But I want you to benefit from the success, too. Without your support, none of this would exist." Nathan decided to accept the multinational's proposal, but with specific conditions. Part of the money would be used to create a support fund for young entrepreneurs from Clear Springs. Another part would be invested in a new, smaller family business, more focused on regional products. "Son, you don't need to include us in your plans," said Mrs. Margaret. "Of course I do. You are my family. Success is only worthwhile if it can be shared with those we love." The sale of the business was finalized at the end of his second year of college. Nathan, at 19, became a millionaire, but maintained the humility and values he had learned from both families. "What changed in your life after becoming rich?" asked a journalist during an interview. "Nothing essential changed. I still live with my parents. I'm still studying and planning the future. The money just gave me more options. But my priorities remain the same: family, studies, work." "And what are your plans now?" "Finish college, expand the support fund for young entrepreneurs, and maybe start a family of my own in the future." The mention of the possibility of starting his own family especially moved Nathan's two mothers, who dreamed of grandchildren. "Son, when you talk about your own family, is there someone special already?" asked Jennifer, curious. "Not yet, Mom. But when there is, I want her to understand that she'll gain not just a husband, but two whole families who will love her." "Any girl would be happy to be part of our crazy family," joked Mrs. Margaret. "Crazy, but full of love," Nathan added. In his third year of college, Nathan met Emily, a fellow psychology student who was fascinated by his story. She was researching family bonds for her senior thesis, and Nathan's family became an interesting case study. "Nathan, your story challenges many theories about adoption and family bonds," said Emily during one of their research meetings. "How so?" "Usually, when an adopted child finds their biological parents, there is conflict, competition, a need to choose. In your case, there was harmony and complementarity. Maybe because I was lucky with both families, or maybe because everyone understood that love doesn't diminish when it's shared. It's exactly that philosophy of yours that makes the case unique. You managed to maintain strong bonds with everyone, without favoritism or exclusion." The conversations with Emily about his family history made Nathan reflect even more on his journey. He realized his experience could help other families in similar situations. "Emily, what if we created a project to guide families going through adoption and reunion situations?" That would be wonderful. Your practical experience combined with my theoretical training could help many people. The relationship between Nathan and Emily evolved naturally, moving from academic collaboration to a special friendship, and then to a serious relationship. Emily was introduced to Nathan's two families at different times, being warmly welcomed by everyone. "Emily is a special young woman," commented Mrs. Margaret after meeting her. "Intelligent, well-mannered, and you can see she truly cares for Nathan." "She understands our crazy family," joked James. "That's half the battle already won." "And did you all like her?" asked Nathan, eager for the family's approval. "We liked her very much," said Jennifer. "She has affection for you and respect for us. That's what a mother wants for her son." "Only one thing worries me," said Mr. Harold, putting on a serious face. "What is it, Mr. Harold? When you get married, will she also have two families? Because then the wedding will be huge." Everyone laughed at the joke, but the prospect of marriage was already being naturally considered by all. In their final year of college, Nathan and Emily developed the Family Guidance Project together, which became one of the most praised senior theses at the university. The project provided free services for families in adoption processes, searches for relatives, and resolution of family conflicts. "Professor, what do you think about the project's viability?" asked Emily during the presentation. "It's a necessary and well-structured project. You combine practical experience with solid theoretical grounding. I'm sure it can work very well." "And what about the funding question?" "With the fund that Nathan created to support social projects, you have guaranteed resources for at least 5 years. That's enough time to prove its effectiveness and seek other funding sources." College graduation was another important milestone in Nathan's life. At 22, he had completed his undergraduate degree with excellence, built and sold a successful company, created a social support fund, and found a partner who shared his values. "Son, you've achieved in a few years what many people don't in an entire lifetime," said James during the graduation party. "Dad, I just took advantage of the opportunities life gave me, and all of this was only possible because I had you by my side." "We are the ones who are proud of you," said Mrs. Margaret, "from that curious boy who found a box of photos to the man you've become." During his speech as class speaker, Nathan returned to the story that marked his life. "Classmates, 10 years ago, I was an orphan boy who accidentally found documents that changed his life forever. Today I graduate in business administration. I am an entrepreneur, I have 2 wonderful families, and a girlfriend I intend to take to the altar soon." The mention of marriage caused a stir in the audience, especially among his families. Emily blushed, but smiled emotionally. "I want to tell you that success in life doesn't depend on where you were born or how many obstacles you faced. It depends on how you react to opportunities, who you choose to have by your side, and never forgetting your core values." After graduation, Nathan proposed to Emily during a visit to the place where he had found the moss-covered car in the woods of Clear Springs. "Emily, this is where it all began. This is where I discovered who I was and where I came from. Now I want this to be where I start the next chapter of my life by your side." "Nathan, of course I accept. But why here?" "Because this place represents new beginnings, discoveries, and the certainty that sometimes chance leads us exactly where we need to be." The wedding was held 2 years later, in a celebration that brought together over 300 people from both of Nathan's families, Emily's family, friends, colleagues, suppliers, and beneficiaries of the couple's social projects. "I've never seen a wedding with so much love and joy together," commented the priest during the ceremony. "Nathan and Emily represent a new generation that understands that family is about unity, not division." During the party, Nathan made a point of personally thanking all the people who had been important on his journey. Mrs. Dorothy, who had kept the first documents, was one of the special guests. "Mrs. Dorothy, without you, none of this would have happened. You were the first link in the chain that brought me here. My boy, I only did what was right. You're the one who made it all happen, with your courage and determination." Mr. Harold and James gave the groom's parents' speech together, an emotional moment that symbolized the union of the two families. "Nathan, you taught us that being a father isn't just about fathering or raising a child," said James. It's about loving unconditionally and always supporting, no matter the circumstances. And you showed us that a family doesn't need to be traditional to be real, added Mr. Harold. What matters is the love between people. Jennifer and Mrs. Margaret also spoke together, representing Nathan's two mothers. My son, you turned what could have been a situation of conflict into a story of love and union, said Mrs. Margaret. Your emotional maturity always impressed us. And now you're starting your own family. But we know you'll never forget where you came from, said Jennifer. You'll always be our boy no matter how many years go by. The honeymoon was a special trip across the United States, visiting social projects supported by the fund Nathan had created. The couple wanted to see firsthand the impact of their actions and plan future expansions. Emily, seeing these young people achieving their dreams moves me more than any profit I've ever made, said Nathan during a visit to a business incubator in Charleston. That's what made me fall in love with you from the start, your sense of social responsibility and your genuine generosity. I learned from my families that success without purpose is worthless, and my purpose is to help other people have the same opportunities I had. 2 years after the wedding, Nathan and Emily had their first son, James Harold, whose name honored both grandfathers. The baby's arrival brought even more unity to the expanded family. Now I completely understand unconditional love, Nathan said to Mrs. Margaret while holding his newborn son. That's what you felt for me from day one. Exactly, son. And now you'll experience the joy and responsibility of being a father. It's the best thing in the world. James, who became a grandfather for the first time, was emotional holding his grandson. This boy has a huge family to love and protect him. He doesn't know how lucky he is. Just like his father, joked Jennifer. Nathan was also lucky to have a huge family, and look how well he turned out. At 26, Nathan had built a solid and prosperous life, but he never forgot his origins. He continued to regularly visit Clear Springs, maintaining the project to support local farmers, and using his personal story to inspire other young people. Nathan, you've become a national reference for social entrepreneurship, commented a journalist during an interview for a business magazine. What was the secret? There is no secret. There's hard work, solid values, and the right people by your side. Everything I achieved was the result of the unconditional support of my families and the partnership with my wife. And what advice would you give to young people facing family difficulties? Don't give up on searching for your identity and your roots, but also value those who were there during the hard times. Biological family and family of the heart can coexist perfectly when there's love and maturity involved. During one of these interviews, Nathan announced his new project, a book telling his story, with all proceeds going entirely to adoption support institutions. Why did you decide to write a book? Because I receive many messages from people going through situations similar to mine. I want them to know that a happy ending is possible, even when the story begins in a complicated way. The book, The Boy from the Moss-Covered Car, became an editorial success, inspiring thousands of families across the country. Nathan donated more than $500,000 to projects related to adoption and family support. Son, did you become a writer too? Joked Mr. Harold during the book launch. No, Mr. Harold, I just became a grateful person who wants to give back all the good I've received in life. And you succeeded, son. You succeeded with room to spare. Today, at 30 years old, Nathan is a father of 3, a successful businessman, author of 2 books, and maintains social projects in 15 U.S. states. His story began with the accidental discovery of documents in an abandoned car, but transformed into a journey of overcoming family unity and positive social impact. He still regularly visits the spot in the woods of Clear Springs where it all began, now taking his own children to see the family's special place. Daddy, why is this place so important? Asks James Harold, the eldest son. Because it was here that Daddy discovered who he really was, and it was that discovery that allowed our family to exist as it does today. And what if you hadn't found that box? Then our story would be different. Maybe worse, maybe better, but it wouldn't be our story, and I wouldn't trade our family for anything in this world. The 2 families that raised Nathan remain united and prosperous. Mrs. Margaret and Mr. Harold, now retired, divide their time between Clear Springs and Charlotte, always present in their grandchildren's lives. James and Jennifer expanded their business and became a reference in sustainable agriculture. "We never imagined our story would have such a beautiful ending," says Jennifer during the Sunday lunches that bring the whole family together. "When we left baby Nathan with Margaret and Harold, we thought it was forever." "And it was forever," replies Mrs. Margaret, "just in a different way than we expected. Today we are all one family, big and happy. Nathan's current company employs over 200 people directly and supports thousands of small producers across the United States. Emily became one of the country's leading specialists in family psychology, with a clinic that serves families in the process of adoption or reunification. Emily, do you regret marrying someone with such a complicated family?" Nathan jokes sometimes. "Complicated? Our family is special. Our children have great-grandparents, grandparents, uncles, cousins in industrial quantities. It's a blessing, not a complication." "You're right. I, who grew up thinking I was an orphan, now have the largest and most united family I know." Nathan's story proves that sometimes chance leads us exactly where we need to be, and that true family is built with love, not just blood ties. The orphan boy who found a box of photographs in a moss-covered car became the patriarch of a family that redefined the concept of unity and unconditional love. And when he looks back, Nathan is sure that that day in the woods was not a coincidence, but destiny. A destiny that led him to discover that love multiplied is always better than love divided, and that family isn't about choosing between options, but about embracing all the possibilities of happiness that life offers. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this moving story of family overcoming. Do you believe Nathan made the right decisions in maintaining bonds with both families? Leave your honest opinion in the comments and share if you've ever experienced a similar situation. Don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories like this one.